Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to episode number 16 in our Oxygen Not Included Redux series. Today we're working on getting our base set up and functioning here on the Gurgani colony. This should be the last episode we spend on doing the basics over here, and then we can get started on doing our breeding and farming stuff. Last time we set up basic power. Right now I put in another power transformer and some batteries. It's going to take a while to get them all built, but then I'm running a power line across, and over here I have started to build what I think is going to be the final layout for the base. So we already had the cots, and we had the bathroom, and we had the great hall, and so all of our rooms here are set up. And then I put the layout for the blast chiller right here. I need to put in a spot where I'm going to do the coolant for it. I think I'm going to put that outside of the base. I didn't want to put it in here. I kind of want to keep things condensed. And I'm putting in an atmo suit dock setup. So we're going to have 10 atmo suits here, and that way duplicants will have to use a suit when they leave. And, you know, 10 is the maximum number of duplicants we're going to have on this colony. So that should be all good. I want to set up a station for an exosuit forge. We're going to put it right here, and so we'll run some power to that. And I gotta check to see. Right now we're 1320. That's going to be a 480, 1800. I think I'm going to have to run a second power line in to control this. This over here is going to be my room for storage. So I have this set up so that this sweeper can reach everywhere in this room. I'm going to fill this with water, and then we'll have some manual drop-offs that go into here. And then that way we can put conveyor loaders all throughout here to go to different places in the base for things that we need. I don't think we're going to need that many, but I was trying to do a layout that filled the whole room. We are going to have to put a couple of tiles here just to seal off that coolant, but that's okay. So we're going to let all these things get built. We have a lot of construction working. One thing we did do in between the episodes is I fixed these filters up so that now this can handle both salt water and brine, so whichever one goes through it, it'll keep flowing. And then on the main colony side of that, I also added another filter for... Oh, this one doesn't have power. I added a filter. This one is for the salt water, this is for brine. And so then they just go merge together. They both drop off into this same tank, which is fine because they're both getting processed in the same way. This one is for polluted water, and then this one is for regular water. So no matter what I throw at this filter, it'll keep flowing, and that everything will be good. So we're processing liquids from this colony. Actually getting pretty low on here. We're also processing the extra fluids from Gurgani. Oh, this is down to like the final little bit as well. And then we have the output from the excess output from the bathrooms and everything going over to the main colony for processing. I haven't checked on my fish recently, but it looks like we're doing okay. I'm not sure if these are keeping up with what they need. I have to keep an eye on it. Looks like we have a lot of them in there, so. And they're reaching old age just fine, so I think that that's doing okay. So we're just going to let that keep going, do its thing. Hopefully we'll get a large amount of fish over time. To feed 10 duplicants in here, we don't need a lot, but my goal is to eventually make it so that this colony is making all the food to send out to other colonies as well. But we'll get to that when we get to it. So I'm going to just let some things get built, get this power over there so I can actually get started on having the duplicants actually using atmo suits, and then we'll get started on doing some of the more advanced stuff we want to do on cleaning up the colony. I've gotten our main base set up for the most part. I have our atmo suits now getting supplied with oxygen. I cut off the supply to the vent over here because now that our duplicants are not allowed to leave without an atmo suit. I don't care what gases are over here. I do have this sealed off with insulated tile, except for up here. I have this door set up so that it lets gas out because I want any non-oxygen gases to work their way into my pump here. We'll have to change that up in a little while. I'm not quite sure how I'm going to handle all that. I probably will just raise the base up, leave a gap so that air can flow above it and get to that. But for now, that'll do the job. I may replace, in fact, let's do it right now. I'm going to replace 2 tiles here with airflow tiles just to let the air flow over so that I can get all this hydrogen that's building up at the top of the base out. But so we're building up the oxygen here. Why are you not sleeping? Where's your bed? You're not able to get into your bed? I have a bed right there. Okay, they can get up here. I'm not sure why they're sleeping on the floor instead of sleeping in their bed. Is there not enough oxygen up here? That's probably it. So let's make this vent a high priority so we can get oxygen pumped into our base. I have cobalt ore for it. Yep, there it goes. Somebody's bringing it. That's the problem. I didn't think about that. I didn't see that that wasn't built, and so we don't have oxygen flowing into our base. Now we should. Okay. So it's slowly filling up the rest of these Atmos suits. Some of the people are stuck inside the base because there's nowhere for them to go without an Atmos suit. But it'll slowly fill up. It's not a problem. And now we have oxygen moving its way into the base. Ooh, we have a lot of carbon dioxide built up here. I'm gonna wait until we get it pressurized to see how much we need to deal with that. For now, I guess what we could do is just do simple airflow here, and we'll do one here and one here, just to let the gases flow in and out of the base. Because I do want to heat the base up, but I'm not quite ready to do that yet. So the other thing we set up is we put a thimble reed farm in, and it looks like we just finished running the piping to it. So we have the polluted water we need to go to it, but the temperature here is a little low, so these are not growing because of body temperature. So I have this water being heated up, so hopefully it'll heat up the area. I think what I should do... This actually might be a good idea. Let's do a bridge like that, and we'll do a bridge like this. Let me think about how I want to do this. I can have this come up and bridge on to our loop. Yeah, I think that'll work. What I'm trying to do here is trying to figure out how to set it up so that there is a loop of polluted water that's moving to shift temperatures around. I'll probably put in some radiant pipes to help with that, but if I can keep the water in here flowing in, getting hotter, that should be pretty good. Let's get these pipes up to 7 priority so that we can get them all built and get that water flowing again. But we want the thimble reed because we need thimble reed to continue to make our repair our Atmos suits as they break. So I have this set to automatically repair Atmos suits forever. We just need the thimble reed for doing it. For now, we have 20 more units, so it'll last us a while. But Oh. I do not want this. I do not want access for that. So this guy came in through the back door, and now he needs to go back out so he doesn't leave that suit somewhere. Sounds good. Looks like that worked. And looks like our oxygen problems here have been sorted, so I'm gonna let this get built up, and then we'll make sure this is working good, and that the oxygen is flowing where we need it to, and then we'll get started on clearing out the rest of the base. Averted a minor disaster. I forgot that because not everybody can get out, I didn't have the food inside the base yet, meant that some people couldn't get to food. So now I moved all the food up to a refrigerator up here. And so now people that are still in the base because we don't have enough atmo suits for them yet, aren't going to starve to death. Plus then the food is right next to the Great Hall. I'm also moving the electric grill up into the base. I don't, in the end, want that to be up in the base here because it is going to generate heat. But right now, our base is freezing. Pretty cold. It's warming up quick because of the oxygen coming in, but it is still very cold. So I don't mind if we get a little bit extra heat in there. We'll deal with that later and move it to where we want it to be. But for now, it'll do the job. Cleveland is just going to the bathroom, needs to find the food, but we have it in here, so she'll be okay. I'm gonna get rid of this ladder so they stop doing that little hop. That was just left over from the build before. Should be okay to get around to everything. Why are you stuck standing there? Okay, whatever. None of these tables are assigned. Do I still have the mess tables down here? I do. I see. That's my problem. Okay, so this Great Hall will get used now after we deconstruct this one. And look, we made a little liquid lock by accident. Okay. Okay, so as far as this goes, we now have this liquid flowing. So we have a loop of it, which means that we can start getting some temperature shifting around. So what I want to do is put in... Let's do a little bit of radiant pipes up here at the top, because it's hotter up here for now. And then I'm going to put just a couple across the bottom here for that heat to leak back out. And that should be plenty to shift the heat around to where I need it from up here. Temporary solution, but temporary solutions are all that I need right now. Just want to get my thimble reed growing. Eventually we will have a nice temperature throughout the entire colony now that we have it sealed up and we are starting to deal with all of the things. Our water flow got a little bit messed up. I fixed it now and the temperature's starting to get spread around like I want it to. Getting really close to these thimble reeds being good to grow. They need to be 22. They're in 20. It'll be fine. But the bog buckets didn't grow for a little while, so we're running behind. But they're all getting close, or some of them are getting very close. And so we'll get enough food in time. Keep things running. Up here, I've set up our automatic dispensers, and I removed the one from down here. So now all of our sweeps are going into here. These are set for sweep only with everything except for the liquefiables being stored. I don't want the liquefiables going in because they'll thaw and then they'll overflow. I still have liquefiables down here for the time being. We'll have to figure out what we want to do with that. So right now I don't really have anything queued up to work on except sweep orders, so I want them to go around and clean up these areas. There's a lot of stuff to pick up. I have a little bit of construction, but nothing crazy. So they're just working on getting the food supplies up, cleaning the base up, and then we'll start working on doing some deconstruct orders, and that'll help to get the base moving along. This area down here is getting really close to being empty of liquids, so I set up some mop orders down here. It's not going to be really clean until we manage to get all of the stuff dug out for where there's like liquids piled up. But we're getting there slowly. While we're waiting for things on Gurgani to get all swept up and cleaned up a little bit more, I thought we would check in on our main colony for a minute. We have our shovels are still doing very well, keeping up with our food supply. We're over 300,000 now. Not quite sure why we have so many omelets. Don't honestly even know where that's coming from. Maybe eggs from over here? I'm not sure. I have to look into that. This is keeping up with our food pretty well, and I'm happy with having plenty of food. No problem at all. If we check down here, we still have plenty of carbon dioxide feeding our slicksters down here. So the population here is doing okay. We got tons of slicksters in here. We could probably actually put in another incubator down here for that so we can increase that population a little. But I'm not really worried about it right now. Our petroleum boiler's running just fine. We're getting an excess of petroleum building up, which is great. And so that's keeping our base nice and powered. And our oil is keeping up just fine. You can see that this is keeping nice and full. I'm concerned about... Oh no, I did set it up. Okay, so this is set up so that once it falls below 500, it shuts off this pump to pump the oil out. So this can never fall below 500, which means that this can never drop below this tile, which would let the carbon dioxide all flow out. I definitely do not want to get gas in here after it took me so long to empty it out. The magma is doing just fine here. We're still getting plenty of heat out from it. Eventually, we'll have to expand this down farther, but I'm not going to worry about it until we start to see issues with it. We have plenty of space to expand down in for magma, and we have plenty of magma to pull in from both of the sides, so it's no problem at all. Like I said, we're doing really well getting all these liquids pumped up and handled. Same with the gases. The gases are actually settling at this level because they can't get over to the pump where they're supposed to go, but I'm okay with that. I don't mind having a little bit of gas built up at the bottom of the base. We can deal with it later. Let's check on our water supplies. We're actually halfway up filled with this tank. I made this tank thinking it'd be the biggest tank I've ever made. I'll never get it filled. We're already halfway there. So we're, it's not surprising. I mean, we have all the liquids that we're going through on that was already built up, but we're also, our petroleum boiler does a net gain of water because we pump in water to the oil wells. The petroleum gets burnt in the petroleum generators up here, and then the polluted water gets sent out to be turned back into water. We actually get more polluted water out of it than we would from what we put in. So eventually this will shut off our water sources because we will just have too much water and we'll have to think about something to do with it. So everything here is just going really, really well. As I said, I want to bring shovels over to the Gurgani colony, but I kind of want to get it nice and neat and organized first. Let's go back over here. You can see we're back up to 30,000 calories over here, so things are going well for that. We're starting to stockpile things here in our storage room that we are getting all set up. So everybody's just doing their thing and grabbing everything they need. And oh wow, we're down all the way to the bottom here on this. Let's get some mop orders going down here as well. And get this section mopped up. And then let's do some mop orders across here so we can get as much of that mopped up as we can. And we'll go from there. So, and then we'll also do a level 5 sweep order on all of this stuff. And this stuff here can be swept. And this over here. Pretty much everything that we can reach. And everybody can just keep on working. We have we're now at the point where we have enough oxygen in here to get most of the suits filled up. As this has filled up, we're getting more and more in here. Eventually, all these docks will be filled, and then it'll just fill up as we need it, which is great. Exactly what we want to see. So now it's pretty much just a waiting game to have them finish doing all the commands I've given them and just let things build up. So I'm probably going to let it run for a few cycles and just check back in at it after a while. Let this water get finished, let all the commands get finished, and see where we're at. One other quick thing I wanted to show you that I set up before we let this run for a little while is that because I have already run a heavy watt wire down to the bottom of the map here, I can just connect up some power right here. And so I can take this farm off of the this power plant and connect it to my main grid. So I'm going to get that done so I can do that. We're slowly going to disconnect everything from this. We'll remove these petroleum generators. And then I think what I'm going to do is move the ethanol processing up here to right next to our system here. That way everything will be all in one place. We'll have a little reservoir set up for the ethanol so that we have some backlog, and we'll just let things do their thing. Been about 20 cycles of just letting the duplicants do their work around the base, and things are starting to get there. One thing I changed is I made it so that this geyser is now closed off, so these generators can still drop in their polluted water into this tank, and this will pump it out when it gets too full, but it's not going into the bigger tank. I want to empty this out so I can remove it. Eventually all this will go, but I'm doing it in stages. I moved the tepidizer down here so that we can heat up this water here, and that's the water that's going to get sent to the crops. Eventually, I want to lower this back down. I'm also trying to pump this tank out because I have some water mixed into it, so I just want to kind of sort it all out and get it set up for long-term use. But for now, this is running full bore, and it's just pumping polluted water out. It's taking priority to the crops. It's going through in here and keeping the crops fed, and then the excess is going off to the main colony. So once this is done, we'll reconnect everything up here so that we can start filling this back up after this tank gets emptied out. I'm just trying to take one step at a time as I move things around, because I want to make sure everything is working before I move on to the next step. We're really almost done with all this liquid here. I don't have any of it flowing right now because I'm trying to get this tank going, but we're so close. And this colony would just keep building up more and more of our food, so we're doing really well there. Soon I want to move the shovels over to this side, so that's probably going to be the next thing I start working on building. I want to build the shovel ranch. I think I'm going to do it below the pips. I think that'll work. My concern is I got to figure it out, because I want the dirt there for the pips because I want them to keep trying. I'm still trying to figure out if I can get them to plant the arbor trees in this dirt. I don't think that they drop seeds. So I think if I were to dig up this one and then put a seed in here, they would probably plant another one in here, which is kind of what I want them to do. But that's something else to play with in the future. But the problem is that if I'm going to do that, I need to leave the natural tiles here. And if I put the shovel ranch directly below it, then the shovels will be able to go through the natural tiles, and I don't want that. But I also don't want to put the shovels directly above here because there is a geyser right here. So I may have to move a bunch of stuff around. We'll see. I could probably do it right above the fish farm, and that's probably what I'll end up doing. So that would mean I have to switch out these tiles for obsidian and go the whole way across. In fact, let's get that started. Like that. I want to make this be a higher priority because I want to seal that room off. getting very close to having this room emptied out, which is good. So it's just slowly, one little step here at a time. So we'll keep checking in as we get things done. I wanted to give you an update on how things are working with the fish farm. I now have it set up so that this is far enough away that I can't reach the eggs here, and I set this to put eggs in. So any eggs that get dropped here by these pacu gets pulled out and put up here. That way we can make sure this stays filled with a breeding fish as often as possible, because we have a large amount of eggs up here incubating. So if you look, let's see if I can zoom out just so I can see how many it is. We got egg after egg after egg, and they're just getting more and more. So these fish, now that they're tamed, they have just enough calories so that they will produce an egg right before they die, which means that once I have a pacu in here that comes from one of the eggs dropped in here, it will continue to lay an egg and replace itself before it becomes food, which is how we want this to work. So every time we get a new egg in here and it gets added up to here, it adds to the population here, and it just gets more and more and more. And eventually we will reach the point where we don't want more fish, and then that's when we just go in and cut out food so that we don't have any breeders in here. You can actually also just set this to 0, which means that just means that this bunker door will never open, which means that we won't have any more breeding fish dropped in here. It's probably actually the easiest way to do it, because then if we want to turn it back on, we can easily. So yeah, that's how this is working. So this means we're going to have more and more fish to cook as we go. We're going to get more and more cooked fish, which we can use to make our surf and turf eventually. I'm also putting in some new power lines so that I can connect all of this grid up to the main grid. I have lines going across to both the existing lines here, so I can pull these two out, and then we'll rip out these petroleum generators. We're almost done getting all of this polluted water pumped up, which means we can go back to pumping the water from down here out. I do want to check. This is our line up to the bathroom. So we need to actually let some of that out so that we don't end up overflowing it. So what I want to do is temporarily cut this just long enough to let liquid from here go out. Let's see, I think I have this connected correctly. Then we want this to be connected here, and I want to remove this liquid brick. Let's make that high priority. Doesn't look like they're coming to do what I want them to do. Come on, grab it. There we go. I had a connection between that too, so it was locking this. So now we have this water emptying out from the filter, which means we can start processing some polluted water from here. We'll do that until we get this pipe emptied, just because I don't want to overflow my bathrooms. And then we'll go back to pumping this. Matter of fact, I think that we should be okay. Just a minute. Thankfully we have all the priority systems set up. Right at that. That way we can make sure we call this. Now we'll reconnect this pipe and this pipe, which means that this pump is now taking priority, but we have enough space here that we can let the polluted water here back up. As soon as this is emptied, it's going to start processing again, because when there's nothing going into this pipe, it takes this one next. That's the priority system. which is good. We're gonna get this emptied out. Oh, we have a little fish in here doing his thing. I don't really want him in there. How about you become some food for me, buddy? So we're doing all right with all that. Things are good. Things are working pretty good all around. I think I'm gonna let them finish building all of this, and then I'm going to get started on putting in our coolant system, because we're getting to the point where we have enough food that I want to make sure that I have some coolant going to our blast chiller so that we can do it. I'm gonna have to set up a pump in our ethanol room because I want to use the ethanol for that. But I'll probably get that set up off camera and then just show it when it's done, because I've done it so many times before. I don't think we need to see it again. So I'll be back once I have all the current construction done and we have this blast chiller up and operational. I have my steam turbine set up, built. I have my coolant loop filled with ethanol. I'm just finishing up the piping to get some water in here to use for the steam reservoir. We already have a line of water coming in from the main base, so I just ran a pipe from it. And we're going to connect over here to the output from our steam turbine output. So that we can just drop enough water in here to fill this up, and then we'll switch these airflow tiles back to insulated tiles, and it'll be ready to go. I still need to get power over to it, so that's being run. I'm just running power lines for now all the way across. I probably will change up the way that's done in the future once I clear everything out, but I just wanted to get it up and running so that we can start chilling our food. I don't want to build all of our stables and everything so that we're producing food without a way to store it so that it doesn't go bad. But that is... we're getting close to being ready to do that. Are you seriously out of one piece of igneous rock? There we go. Good. Let's check. See how this pipe is. Good. So we're all set here. Actually, cancel these two. That's a temporary pipe. Particular material. So now we're just dropping water off. It's going down out through the vent here into the chamber. It won't take us long to fill up the bottom layer, and then as soon as it fills up the top layer to push all the air out, and then I can cut off the water flow. And then once the power is hooked up, our aqua tuner will start working and getting this system cooled down. We're going to cool this down, send a green signal if it's above -30. May need to make some changes. I was just thinking that as I did it, that this loop that's going to cool the steam turbine up here is probably going to cool it too much. So we may have to change some things around. But we'll see. See how it all goes. I may just pull out the power transformer and change the way this is set up so that I can just seal this room in the future, but we'll see how we get it. As far as the chamber up here, I'm probably going to put in a few more refrigerators. I already have this room filled with chlorine, and I'm working on the conveyor rails. So let's see. We can disconnect this part. And then I can reuse that conveyor rail to get this set up and this set up. That line is we're going to set it up to pick up anything in here that is not food. So if anything goes bad in our refrigerators and it drops on the floor, it'll pick up the rotten food and throw it in there so it goes into our storage and doesn't off-gas inside of our bins. That's the plan. And then I have another line going over here to pick up the food that is being cooked in our electric grill. And we'll probably set something up in here so that any food that gets dropped off in here gets sent up to the electric grill, and we'll just have food get dropped off here from our farm. That's basically the plan for the future. Let's check out how our power lines are going. Get in there. I still have to get this section done and all of this, and then I can reroute all the power lines. It also means I'll be able to cut off this power and start doing some work here. But I just ran ethanol from this tank over to here, so we'll have to pull all that piping out too once we're done. But I just want to make sure everything's working before we do that, just to make sure I don't need to make any changes. And the water in here is already half full, so once it's full, we'll fire this up. Got everything set up here with our deep freeze. You can see, if you look at the chlorine, it's at minus 29 degrees, and if you look at the Swampy Delights there, they say deep freeze in a sterile atmosphere, because they're in very, very cold chlorine. In fact, I had to dial back down temperature. Originally I had it so cold that the chlorine turned to liquid, which actually would have worked fine too. But these are set up so they hold 2 kilograms of each food. They get pulled out as we need them, and so the majority of the food stays deep frozen as long as we need it to. I have this set up so that any cooking ingredients that get put in here get moved over here to the grill and get put in. So what I'm working on next is getting it set up down here so that we have auto sweepers that pick up the bog jellies as they grow, and that takes them up. We'll take them up, drop them into the main storage so that they can get put over here. We'll do the same thing eventually with the fish. Right now I have that coming over here and drop it off here. All I really need to do for this is run up this conveyor belt to connect it to this main line that I'm building here. And then that means that we will have our pacu fillets and everything that gets picked up, instead of getting shipped to our old storage spot, will get shipped all the way up to our main storage. We'll probably end up changing the way this line goes and making it more centralized, but that means that for both, right now we have Swampy Delights and we have cooked seafood being made. Everything will get moved up here. The only thing we need involved from a duplicant is to cook the food. So that's pretty cool. And like I said, the deep freeze will keep that food fresh for us as long as we need it to. So everything here is working exactly how I want it to. I still need to work on moving around a lot of power and things like that so that I can get power down here to these types of things. And we're going to work on clearing out the rest of the map. But we are ready to start setting up the rest of our stables so that we can start producing barbecue as well as the cooked seafood, which means that we can add in a gas range and tap into our natural gas geyser here and start making surf and turf here on the Gurgani colony. And that's our end goal for now for here. But we've done quite a bit here. We're going to let things keep on going. We'll start pulling out some of the things as we go, because we're at the point where the water's almost gone, the gases are under control. Speaking of gases, I have carbon dioxide coming out of this system at a pretty steady rate now, so we can have even more carbon dioxide to send to our infinite storage of carbon dioxide that we're never going to use. So I hope you enjoyed watching this episode, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.